Have you ever been in a situation where your imagining of your desire has not been sufficient to bring forth your manifestation? The secret to a lot of manifesting lies in harmonizing. And this would be harmonizing your core desire with supplementary beliefs. And I call this method the harmonic method, through which you imagine your core desire, the imaginal act that you're attempting to create, with two beliefs. And those two beliefs, oftentimes, if you construct imaginal acts properly, which really can be short and concise, then all three of those things, the two desires and the imaginal acts, will manifest in a harmonic method to manifest your desires quickly and easily. I'm going to take you through the process today based upon an account, a firsthand account of one of my clients, Beth, who recently sent me an email after my latest session, and it blew my mind. This video itself is going to teach you just how easy it can actually be to create your manifestations. And if you're someone who has been stuck for a long period of time, like in Beth's case, she had been attempting to manifest her specific person for years. Now, albeit not through the process that I teach on my channel, but nevertheless, the years still count as years. And through this method that has been tested over and over again now, proven through a variety of different coaching clients of mine, and also through you who have submitted the evidence to me, and I use this myself, we will come to the conclusion that we can use this method every time systematically to manifest in a predictable manner. So hi, my name is Joseph Alai, and welcome to my channel. And today we're talking about the harmonic method. Now, I first want to start with a little information about my client, Beth. Beth was someone who I spoke with years ago. She was a client who I had before I took my long break from YouTube. She was someone who had one session with me, and in that session, we talked about, her core desires. We talked about her belief systems. We talked about the problems that she had in her life, and what her story was. A little bit of what I remembered on the surface was Beth had a specific person. This was a guy that she had been with prior, but many years before. And through the process of just time and throughout her life, she realized a lot of her relationships had these patterns that consistently and continuously repeated themselves over and over again. Now, after talking to me, she ended up going through this process of obsessively watching a lot of different teachers, which makes perfect sense. And in doing so, she was imagining in steps. She was affirming repeatedly. She was doing a lot of different things in order to attempt to manifest this guy back into her life, someone who she knew was perfect for her, but what happened was they just grew apart. But after she was in a relationship with him is when all the drastic things started happening in her life. She started manifesting and experiencing negative relationships. She was treated poorly, and her familial relationships also were always a struggle. She was stressed out. She was not treated fairly. She was, in often cases, not only by her family, but the relationships that she was in, she was gaslit. She was called names. She was abandoned. And on the other end of the spectrum, she herself became very insecure. Now, this, again, isn't just specifically because of her romantic relationships, but in all accounts in her life, with her friendships and her relationships, she was very insecure. She was extremely afraid that she would be abandoned. She overcompensated based upon this fear to act in ways which actually created the problems over and over again. In other circumstances, when she had a grip on her emotions, so she would be completely stable in her life, the other person would suddenly change. And like I said, gaslight, would treat her poorly, would, in other words, make her feel unimportant. And then ultimately they would abandon her. So she would be placed on this roller coaster of baseline when she was by herself. But then when she would encounter friends or relationships, she would be put on these roller coasters of first either the person appearing to be deeply interested in her, or and then she would slowly start to like them, and then they would pull away. Or when she would catch deep feelings, they would pull away. Or it would be mutual, and then they again would gaslight her, and on and on and on and on. So throughout the process when I was gone and she was attempting to manifest this person, it was all within affirmations or all within certain imaginal acts which were not manifesting her end. She would get intermediary steps to unfold, but ultimately they would cause to go back to the beginning, which is something that happens on a regular basis when we manifest the middle. Just for clarity's sake, manifesting the middle is to imagine a scenario that isn't quite the end, something like a romantic date or a kiss or any intermediary scene, a text message that is not the end, but you're attempting to fulfill that immediate desire, which hopefully will step you towards that end. It's kind of like applying our limited human perspective of how we live day in and day out to manifesting, when in reality, we're supposed to do just the reverse, which is imagine the end, and then ultimately that will bring us to that end. But in the case of Beth, the problem that existed, and this is what we figured out by the time I came back and she reached out to me and then joined the Discord, was that these beliefs, these assumptions, these patterns that unfolded repeatedly were likely the problem. And so after we chatted back and forth for a little bit on the Discord, she decided to get the 3 imaginal scene package from me. But what I'm going to do with you is break down with you specifically how I use the Harmonic Method to develop these 3 custom imaginal scenes for her so that you can implement them into your life and manifest exactly what Beth did, which now is she is engaged to this individual, to the person that she had no contact with, to the person who she did not see herself ever being capable of maintaining a consistent, long-lasting relationship with. And drastically, rapidly, her reality changed so quickly after engaging in these imaginal acts, her entire life changed. So I think it would be appropriate to first and foremost read her email. I asked her in the end, after this all unfolded, that she just send me a quick message to let me know what she had experienced through this. And so I'm going to read that to you now. Forever grateful for your guidance. That's a subject line. Hi, Joseph. I hope this email finds you well. I just want to take a moment to share my gratitude for the incredible impact your teachings and imaginal acts have had on my life. When I came back to you, I was at one of my lowest points. I was extremely frustrated, disheartened, and ready to give up after years of trying every manifestation technique under the sun with nothing to show for it. My past was weighing on me, and I felt like I was stuck in a cycle of heartbreak and failure. But everything changed when you created those 3 custom imaginal acts for me. For the first time, I felt a deep sense of completion. Like these scenes were designed to cut right through my assumptions and beliefs and insecurities. Each one felt so real and so powerful, so much so that I couldn't help but accept that new reality that you helped me envision. But this didn't happen immediately. Within weeks, everything started to shift naturally. My specific person began showing up in ways I never thought possible. He had apologized for losing contact, making things right, and showing me the love and respect I'd always dreamed of. I also noticed changes in myself. I became more confident, more secure, and more at peace. I felt like the entire world was reflecting this new version of me. And this is, through our conversation, this was through a bridge of incidents. After she had listened to the 3 harmonized imaginal acts that I provided to her, she had witnessed things unfold in the external world. People started acting. People who she hadn't talked to in years, people who she had soured relationships with, began to contact her, began to apologize to her, began to compliment her, and sparked up new relationships with her. So this in and of itself, coming from someone who had felt abandoned, who had a low self-esteem because of all these experiences, was witnessing before her eyes these drastic changes that prior to this she could not invoke to happen. Fast forward to now, and I'm engaged, capital letters, to the love of my life. This now feels like a miracle, and I know without a doubt that it all began with those 3 imaginal acts. Thank you for helping me remember who I truly am and showing me the power within myself to create my dream life. I'll be forever grateful to you. So the thing about this is, yes, she gives me the gratitude and all of this, but really it was her imagination that did the work. Her subconscious mind created a reality in a perfect way that got her exactly what she needed. And in fact, the heavy lifting was done by her. She had already been able to articulate the experiences that were happening to her in these patterns over and over and over. And in doing that, see, the imaginal acts that I create go like this. There's a form that you fill out for each one. And in those three, the first one that she created was specifically related to her specific person. She just stated that she wanted to have her marriage with her specific person. It was very broad. And the second one that she submitted, it just asks you to create kind of like a blurb. She told me about the patterns in her life, that she'd been abandoned, she'd been lied to, she'd been gaslit by over and over various different people. And then the other one was her insecurity, her fears, her doubts, her jealousy, and so on and so forth. And in doing this, all we have to do is there's a formula to creating this harmonic method, to using this. Now, you can do this with recording imaginal acts, or you can do this by just imagining them yourselves without recording. But the point is you need to use a formula to convert the desires into a proper imaginal scenario. And in doing so, you connect them all three and then imagine them separately, and then they will manifest. And I'll explain to you briefly in each one. So the harmonic method is to construct an imaginal act based upon your core desire, which in this case was marriage. And in your case, it can be anything you want. Do you want to be rich? Do you want to have health? Do you want to manifest better? Whatever the case is, you construct that scenario. Do you want a successful business? You construct an imaginal act which implies you already are that person. Now, this is really critical because most people here go in steps, but manifestation is not a step thing. It does invoke steps to unfold. There is a bridge of incidents that unfolds, but the ways and means and how many steps are involved have nothing to do with you and your decision making. So with that said, you conjure up a scenario, a short and concise scene, which implies that you already have what you want. And in doing that, that will provide to your imagination, and your imagination will take the form of that scenario, adding what would it be like, what would you think, what would you taste, smell, hear, feel, in its very condensed, short and concise manner. So make sure it's after the end. In this case with her, it was her celebrating an anniversary with her specific person. One of the things that I do that I'm particularly good at, because I've been doing this for a really long time, is I also do inject miniature beliefs within the imaginal acts themselves. So in other words, because this is an audio that people are listening to of my voice, oftentimes what I will do is construct statements which, in other words, that will have presuppositions for the subconscious mind to base its beliefs upon. So I will inject things like her confidence, like her security within that core imaginal scene, but the desire as a whole is still just the anniversary. And the reason it's the anniversary is because you must go to a time after the desire has been fulfilled. And the way that manifesting works, as it comes from scripture and Neville Goddard, is that your consciousness as a whole emanates and illuminates the material within the imagination. So there's the imagination, but that is illuminated by our consciousness. Those are two separate things. And as our consciousness becomes aware of what we're imagining, a process is undergone. A bridge of incidents is formulated by consciousness, which consists of infinite intelligence, infinite power. As it says in scripture, the imagination is the power and wisdom of God. So when we bring forth the image of our desire within the imagination, a seed is crafted and planted outside of time-space. And then outside of time-space, which is in God's realm, which is in heaven, the bridge is constructed, meaning the thoughts and ideas are formulated and then passed off to any individual with a consciousness and a mind, which is any being in this world. And then that being will act out their perfect role in order to get you your manifestation. And that's exactly how this works. So in this case, the core thing that you need to do for the first one is to construct that scenario at the very least, and this works absolutely excellent, is constructing a single one-off event after the moment that you're desiring, meaning not including it, not before it, right? You've got a seed here, not a string of seeds connecting together. So you must contain within the seed all of the ends and means that you need. So you want to already be married here, or you want to already have your thriving business, or you want to already have your multi-million dollars. And in doing so, or your yacht, or your house, or your whatever it is that you want to have. And in these, you can really create an imaginal scene that's merely a few seconds long and repeat that over and over in order to impress your subconscious mind. And in doing that, that is normally what I choose, generally speaking. But when I'm constructing the harmonics, what I will do instead is construct a very brief, short, explanatory story. And either it will be just for the character themselves, and I'm telling them who they are. It's not in the first person perspective because they themselves are supposed to be listening to me as if I'm commanding them who they are. If it's your own voice that you're recording, you can use I am, and you should use I am because it's your own voice. Pretend that's your internal thinking voice. And in doing so, you construct and craft this scene, usually a minute long or so, and make sure that it implies concise, meaning-packed symbols that only would exist if you had what you wanted, excluding anything irrelevant. Don't harp upon any detail that's not absolutely critical for the end result. And in many circumstances, a brief conversation back and forth or a description of the experience, where they are, what they're doing, the dinner table, the restaurant, the vacation, and then the back and forth exchange, which would explain what that person is experiencing as if it's their inner voice. Like, I'm so grateful that I'm married to so-and-so, or whatever it is. And then you have them recite it back. So in other words, it's an encapsulated scene, but in the form of words that enters into the sphere of your imagination directly and straight through without resistance in a short and concise manner to exclude anything irrelevant, because irrelevant or ambiguous details can pollute or confuse the imagination, really, so that the subconscious mind will not focus on the proper thing and create the wrong thing. So to be very specific and particular about the things that you're imagining is extremely critical here. And in doing that, that is the first and the pinnacle of the harmonic system of the imaginal method, the imaginal harmonic system. So second to that are the bottom two tiers. So it's really a triangle. The first one is the imaginal act that describes all the scenario that you're wishing to experience. The bottom two tiers are each going to be beliefs that are likely the core beliefs that are preventing a manifestation from unfolding. Now, in this case, let me put it this way. Oftentimes, a single imaginal act does the deal, and oftentimes a bridge of incidents just must unfold to get us there. But in this situation, and oftentimes in my own situation, because there's no impact in a negative way against imagining multiple things, when I use this harmonic system, which I almost do in every circumstance to one degree or another, I will construct two imaginal acts, which in other words or in other ways would mean that I could no longer have those patterns unfolding of abandonment, of being hurt, of being gaslit. And then on the other hand, the other pillar is the security, the confidence, the non-jealousy. And the way that we do this, each of these, I'll just give you one example, but it applies for the second example, which would be the imaginal act that would be a conversation or some way to imply that those things never happened to you. So in other words, oftentimes it could be a conversation between you and a friend where a friend is complimenting you or congratulating you on the fact that every relationship that you're ever in is long-lasting, is perfect, is peaceful, is continuous. Whatever the situation is that you're in or that you have been in, those patterns that have been unfolding, the core strategy to this is to find a general way to describe what's been happening. Like, people always leave me, people always gaslight me, people are always mean to me, people always abandon me. And what you do is you convert those into opposing general statements. People always remain with me, people are always consistent, people love me unconditionally. And you would construct as many as you needed in order to combat the primary problems. And then you formulate those into an imaginal scene. Now, in this case, again, with the harmonic method that I used for this individual who bought the 3-pack, it was a few different interactions back and forth in the single not long, but a little bit under a minute long imaginal act. It was just a very standardized conversation that would be had if she was the person and had the types of relationships that she wanted to have. Now you'll notice here I went general, and the reason I go general is because in a specific, or the fact that it's a pattern means that it's a belief, because patterns will manifest over and over and over, whereas an imaginal act manifests once. So the fact that she experienced this in a continuous fashion over the sphere of multiple relationships over years is the proof that she has beliefs. And then in doing that, you construct the opposing belief. So you construct a statement which implies you already are that person who is confident, and they would congratulate you on that, or they would just simply compliment you on your demeanor, and you would reiterate back and say, thank you. So in other words, someone compliments you on the fact that you are extreme, that every guy that you date is loyal. Every guy that you date is consistent. Every guy that you date treats you well. Every guy that you date, so such and so forth. And you find a way to condense them. You combine as many of these statements as you can into advanced wording or structures where it's short and condensed, so your subconscious mind and your conscious awareness doesn't navigate and get lost or lose concentration. And you just do back and forth exchange, a couple back and forth exchanges in this one scenario, and that's it. And the same thing goes for the last pillar. And in doing this, the way that I like to do this is, some people like to listen to the imaginal act last and like to do the two bottom pillars first. And this does have some valid understanding, because the concept is if they never fix those patterns, they'll never get the manifestation, which is why they haven't gotten it in the first place. And there is definitely some valid truth to this. However, the one thing that is true as well is that time is not linear in the place where manifestation occurs. So it isn't automatically necessary that you do it in this order. It just becomes necessary that you do them, period, and you do all three of them. And in doing this, what happens is a harmony occurs. So you can, in this case with Beth, she listened to all three of them in one day. She listened to the primary one a few times, then she listened to the one about abandonment after that, and then the one about her security after that. And then, but she listened to them on repeat a few times each until she felt that satisfaction of knowing that she really got involved with it emotionally and consciously. And in doing that, then she just rotated it until she was done. And then she did that again for a few nights until she felt kind of sick of it. She had memorized the scripts, which is a good indication that it's gone subconscious. And then after she did that is when the bridge started to unfold. The first thing that happened was individuals started reaching out to her. They started, people from her past, the friends that she had in high school and after high school that she had either lost touch with, or groups of people who she thought weren't nice to her. People started reaching out to her, and some of them had made amends for the things that they had done, and others had acted as if nothing ever happened, which alluded to the truth that a lot of this was really belief driven. And in some cases, the people who she was projecting her her past on really did not perceive her in the light that she had thought. But because of the way that she acted in response to her own limiting beliefs about it, it pushes those people away. So in other words, though, what happened was these people started coming out of the woodworks and making her feel better about herself. And she started making plans with some of these people. After that, some of the exes that she had dated were reaching out to her as well and making amends for the things they had done. That was huge. These were things that had never happened to her. She had constantly lived in the same patterns. And literally all she did was listen to the 3 harmonic imaginal acts that I had provided her. Literally, it was the easiest, shortest, most specific thing that you could do. And this all started to unfold. Finally, her specific person reached out to her. Now, they were not in communication in any way, shape, or form. They hadn't been in communication for a while. She herself had this, the last time she had gotten in touch with him, it was very strained. And then it had been a long time since they had been in communication in general. But after this, he reached out to her almost like clockwork. It was like all things were working together. And ultimately, he took the reins. Now, he himself was not a person who had really treated her extremely poorly. Now, she herself had issues internally, as we all do, and I can relate to this to an extreme degree, extreme fear of abandonment. I had my brother die. I had a lot of close friends die. I mean, in the dozens of close and best friends die. When I was 19 all the way up until, even modern day, And with that said, the abandonment fear in my life was at 10 of 10. And with that said, the people in my life acted out in that manner all the time. And besides that, there was insecurity, fears, jealousies, doubts. And it was really like the culmination of all these things which tortured me continuously for years. And I myself underwent a very specific similar transformation as Beth did herself, where over the course of a couple of months, through the act of imagining specific things and then the pillars which made up the beliefs in the Harmonic Method, just absolutely demolished these fears, these assumptions, these doubts, and I turned into an extremely stable, confident person. And not only that, the people that I brought in to my life no longer fit the same pattern as they did prior, and the people who were already there were changing. And this completely transformed everything. This was prior to meeting Athena. And in fact, in my opinion, I believe from my experience that it was these Harmonic Method instances that I applied that caused the final meeting between me and Athena. I think those were just a part of the bridge for me to become the person who would be perfect for Athena. And you all know where that is at now, which is excellent, the greatest relationship I've ever been in my entire life. So this method is no joke. The core and fundamental aspects of it are derived from a couple different ideas. And the first one is the way that manifestations affect our reality. 99% of our reality is made up of beliefs. These are things that we're not deliberately imagining, but through our experiences of the past, we formulate and form the stream, the direction of the stream that our life is going in. And with that, the core imaginal acts, the specific imaginal acts, make up the other 1% of our reality. So those beliefs and assumptions based upon those events of old are manifesting over and over and over. Some of them take long pauses until we set ourselves up in a position that reminds our subconscious to manifest it again. Much of this is beyond our control. Beyond our immediate control prior. It's only through a method such as this, combating it and replacing it, and then so it's, in other words, changing the stream of our consciousness. And in the fact that I was abandoned continuously and I was insecure and fearful, and it was the same thing with Beth, really, that the stream of the river, right, the current through which her manifestations were traveling, were in a direction which was the manifestation of those problems, right? And so when she would attempt to manifest something that was positive as it relates to these sort of specific people or relationships, manifestations, the current was in the opposite direction. And in doing that, in manifesting against where your beliefs and assumptions are, there are tons of problems that arise. Sometimes the manifestation will unfold, but then it'll just vanish, break down, and go back to the origin. But in this case, when you use the Harmonic Method, there is a synergy that occurs. Literally, the current changes underneath the manifestation, directed in the exact position that you want it to go. This is what changed my entire life. This is a method that I have proven time and time again. A lot of the studies that I have done with my clients and a lot of the surveys that I've taken have proven that this method and formula is the solution to the majority of issues that people blame on either they're not meant for this manifestation or whatever it is. There's something blocking them, whatever have you. But in doing this, the power is really clear cut. So in the case of Beth, the ultimate came when she started dating him, and very rapidly. Now, like I said, Beth is someone that's also in the Discord, in the Patreon, right? We have Athena and I have a Patreon Discord. She's more of a recording type person. She's in the high tier, but she ended up reaching out to me, is what ended up happening again in the chat room. And in doing so, she was able to tell me that she thought that he was about to. So we had talked, I had created these things for her. She had engaged in listening to these custom imaginal scenes that I meticulously crafted for her to ensure that a lot of those beliefs were completely, within this framework of this harmonic method. And after she had done so, it wasn't a matter, it was only days after, a week after, that she started witnessing these transformations unfolding in the world, right? Things started happening to her. What's really important to understand is it wasn't that her beliefs automatically changed because of the recordings. It was the recordings had impressed the subconscious mind, manifested bridges of incidents in the world, which forced her to change our beliefs in alignment with the custom imaginal scenes that I had provided her following this blueprint. And furthermore, after that, it was not a long time gone beyond that her specific person had reached out. They had started going on dates. He acted amazingly. Even her anticipation, she didn't fully trust that this would go in her direction that she wanted to, because so many times she had been let down. But over the course of the months, things remained consistent. And now at this point, they are engaged. So she reached out to me right before they were engaged. She said, I think he's going to ask me. And then the next thing I know, she messaged me and said that he did and that they are officially engaged. So this is not a one-off thing. This is common. This is standard, right? In combination with this harmonic method and also crafting specific imaginal acts that can really facilitate one another, this is commonplace. I see this all the time. I receive testimonials and success stories all the time, whether it's from my own custom imaginal acts or whether through people just follow the methods and tell me exactly what they've done. It is extremely successful. So in doing this, you can expect amazing results. You just remember going into it that this is the way that reality is shaped. There is a direction in which your reality is going, a moving, a current, a direction, the path that it is traveling. And through that, you will witness that, and you'll find this regularly when you compare your manifestations, when you look at your list method, which is another thing that's amazing to prove manifestation works, that I've seen, hundreds of thousands of manifestations from that I've been able to examine through my own experiences, and from those of you who have submitted them to me, hundreds of thousands of them. It's amazing. If you haven't seen that video, you should probably see it. It's called something like the 14-day manifesting method or something like that. But either way, the point is, using this harmonic method, watch how fast and easy it is to manifest your desires. 3 imaginal scenes, craft them in a meticulous way where you can hone in on the after the end. The other 2 are imagining your beliefs in order to conform with the current that you wish things to go in that direction thereof, which is therefore taking the patterns, breaking them down, refracting them into their true direction, their true state, reversing them into the way you want them to go, and then imagining them with your ultimate imaginal act, rotating them, and then you will watch how reality will change. This works every time if you do it correctly. So with that said, use the harmonic method. Absolutely comment below. Thank you guys so much for remaining commenting below. It's been super helpful to those who are new to this channel, that they get to see how effective this stuff works. So thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you next time.